Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and today I have an episode that I'm really excited for. I have Katie Barrows, Communication Director for the Department for Professional Employees, AFL-CIO, and uh, Elizabeth Liz Kidder, who's a steward with OPE Local 39. So, as you might have guessed, we're talking about unions, which is something we don't talk about in insurance much, at least in the 10 years that I've been around. So, Katie, uh, let's start with you. Uh, why why is this important, and what is the Insurance Professional United?
Yeah, so Insurance Professionals United is a project between the Department for Professional Employees, AFL-CIO, where I work, and one of our affiliated unions, OPEIU, or the Office and Professional Employees International Union. And OPIU represents um, workers at a number of insurance companies, including where Liz works at TrueStage. And so, knowing that they already have experience working with insurance professionals, we wanted to partner with OPEIU to try to reach even more insurance professionals and grow union membership in the insurance industry. Um, and OPEIU members have had a lot of luck creating fairer workplaces, securing higher pay and better benefits. And so, we think that with more density in the insurance industry, that uh, all working conditions can be lifted up. And so that's kind of why we have the Insurance Professionals United campaign and what we're working on with OPEIU.
When did this campaign start?
The campaign started, probably a little less than a year ago. I think we launched our campaign website in January, which is it's insuranceprofessionalsunited.org. And from there, we've been working to reach non-union insurance professionals and try to let them know about the benefits of a union. And then we've also realized that um, you know, insurance professionals, a lot of them have working conditions that are less than ideal. And kind of to inform our campaign, we started conducting a survey uh, of work conditions um, we're going to be previewing the result, or I can preview the results on this call, but in December we're going to have a an event to go over those results. But some of the top lines are that insurance professionals, about 74% of them would approve of a proposal for a union in their workplace. And then unfortunately, about 44% of insurance professionals are unsatisfied with their job. And some of the places where they'd like to see improvement is in pay, work-life balance, and opportunities for promotion. But so we've been kind of trying to use this data to better inform our project. And we've been doing a lot of work with OPEIU members like Liz to get the word out there about that insurance professionals can form unions and that there are unions for them.
Okay, so for me, 10 years in the industry, and out of those 10 years, I spent the first two in claims, and quickly ran away. Went to underwriting, property casualty underwriting. Did that for a little while. Went through a leadership development program in finance. Then became a sales manager, and finally went back as a middle market underwriter. And then I've been a recruiter in the industry for the last last 5 or 6. And where I really saw conditions that in my mind really just cry out for a union is in the property casualty claim space, and some of it makes sense because claims people are every call you have is somebody that's having a bad day. If they weren't having a bad day, they wouldn't be talking to claims, right? So some of it is somewhat unavoidable. However, it's made worse by the fact that almost every claims adjuster I talk to is consistently buried under a avalanche of work that is more than they can possibly handle, uh, and a lot of management is very focused on those metrics, with very little focus put on how to handle that, and how to not let it affect you, right? How to handle the emotional piece of that. So I've always wondered how come uh, I never saw a union with insurance, and it's interesting that only in the last year you guys started that. I'm glad that I found you this quickly. Uh, let's go with Liz's story. How did you find out about the union, and how did you become
So it
involved?
was through my workplace. It was the first place that I was able to join a union with True Stage. And it was just something I worked for them for 6 years and right away opt in because I'm like, oh, yep, I want to be in a union, but I don't really know what that means. So, and I was a really, really bad union member until about a year ago now. It's when I had a house fire and I went to my company asking for help, and they basically completely blew me off, and I got no assistance whatsoever for them. And then my husband ended up going into rehab, and so like I'm all alone with a burned down house. And I turned to my union for help. Like I just happened to mention what I was going through, and I had my union members reaching out to me saying, "How can we help? We're struggling too. We can't really like donate money to you, but like if you need groceries, if you need anything else, like we're here to help you because you're in the union. It means you're not alone." So I really grew into the union throughout this entire year and moved up to be a steward. So now I'm very involved.
I would
Okay,
say,
so,
Liz,
so
you weren't a bad union member before. You just weren't active. So,
uh, but I am curious. So when you show up at the company and they already have a union, you had a positive perception
Yes.
of the union. Do you come from a family background of lots of union membership, or how did that positive
Yeah, so my
perception?
grandma was assistant dean at the UW Madison. So she's very pro union and very liberal and all that. So she ever was like, if you have a chance to join a union, you are being a member. Okay, grandma.
Okay, so I've been working professionally post college since 2006, and it's always I've always been white collar worker, and what I have found is that from what I've seen, white collar workers just don't tend to unionize in the states. So either of you would, like, why is that?
well, I would say that's a little bit of a miss. I mean, it's like there's maybe not as much publicity over white collar
Okay,
workers or professional workers organizing, but like at DPE, we work with unions with professional union members, and actually there's about 6.3 million professionals in unions in the U.S. So, and that's about somewhere around 43 or 40% of the labor movement. So actually, professionals now are a decent chunk
okay,
of the
wow.
labor movement.
Hmm.
Um, so like engineers at Boeing, insurance professionals like Liz, um, librarians, digital journalists, lawyers at nonprofits, all sorts of professionals are in union. I think it's just, you know, that a lot of people don't know about it, and unions are less, um, or at least in recent years, or I mean, in like the recent history, unions have been kind of less prominently featured in the news. Now that's changing a little bit with some of the strikes that have been going on and some of the big organizing campaigns. Um, but I think that once professionals understand that they can unionize and that they can make workplace changes with a collective voice, that uh, they become more interested in joining together in union. Um, I guess I'll turn over to Liz if you want to talk more about the union in your workplace.
Yeah. So for my union, we have been fighting for close to 600 days now for a fair contract with TrueStage. We have gone on strikes. We've done multiple rallies now with politicians and getting speakers and everything to come. My union was the most supporting union that I think I could have ever asked for. It's been a really positive experience, even though we're going through a crappy situation with my employer. But they've been really positive and really fighting for what needs to change and what needs to happen in our workplace just to be comfortable. I mean, with everything I went through, now I'm completely drained. I don't have any financial backbone. When a fire happens, they pay for just the fire damage. They don't pay for anything that needs to be brought up to code that the fire didn't touch. So, like, my entire back of the house had to be rewired and some structural things needed to be fixed. And that came out of my pocket. So, I haven't gotten a raise in 2 years now, with inflation being 11% and all those construction supplies. Man, it really sucked. But I had my union and I really became a voice for my union. I've spoken at both rallies now and really grew into a better human being, I think, because of my union.
And Liz, some of the stuff you guys are working towards includes raises.
Yes.
And like you have like a voice in the process that I don't know if you want I don't if you have friends in other insurance companies without unions, if you have any comparison to that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple friends that are, and they just have to ask for a raise, and they go to their manager, and their manager goes, "Nope, sorry, I don't have money in the budget." And that's kind of the excuse you get at every single company. Well, I can go to my manager too and be like, "Hey, I want a raise," but with the union, it's in our contract. Every single year we get a raise. Every single year we get a bonus because my union fought for that. My union fought for HMOs and insurance and affordable healthcare FSAs and all that. And there's other people that are on the same team as I am who don't have the union. So they don't have HMOs, they don't have pensions, they don't have like all the stuff that I have because my union won it.
How does that work? How do you end up with people on the same team, some of whom are unions,
Yes.
some of whom are not? Did they self-select on the way?
So it's how the position is coded itself. So I'm represented. I can join the union. Non-represented can't. And it was kind of when we have 3 locations. We have Waverly, Texas, or I'm sorry, Waverly is Iowa, Texas, and then Madison. And Waverly is not unionized. It never was, but Madison was. So if you get a job in Madison or like a remote Madison occupation, you can join the union. Now, since that's a other non-representative area, that's kind of our next goal is how do we unionize them? Because, I mean, I'm doing the same job as 80% of my team, but I have so much protection, which they don't.
So it's deeply tied to
Yeah,
the location.
yeah.
Well,
basically, each location has to vote independently to unionize.
I mean, generally, with the National Labor Relations Board, the National Labor Relations Act, there's something that's called a community of interest. And if you're in a community of interest and you're not a manager, so you don't, or a supervisor, and you don't have hiring and firing power, and you're not in HR, then generally, community of interest can be sliced a couple different ways. But in and it kind of changes depending on who's in political office and who appointed the folks to the NLRB. But generally, location is a really easy way to define community of interest. So a lot of times it will be location by location, as opposed to like job title by job title, like for the whole U.S. But you could potentially have a unit that's like one job title at one location, or it just like depends on the community of interest that was defined, and in a lot of cases it ends up being the physical workplace or the physical office that they're like associated with, but it's not always the case.
Okay, so theoretically, you could organize all of claims reps in the company that are
That's
not
what
supervisors.
I'm hoping to do by joining and being a steward, is what our next goal is after we obtain a fair contract, is how do we unionize more of the workplace? Because unfortunately, the employer has gotten rid of a lot of union jobs and brought in contractors and stuff like that. So they went from 1,500 union workers. Now we're down to like around 500. So.
And how does the law protect us from that happening? I'm sure that's the number one question people have is okay, we unionize. What keeps the employer from basically just replacing us with non-union or with contract workforce?
Yeah, so what the contract really protects you there, and if they don't follow it, they get unfair labor practice charges against them with the federal labor. And we have multiple of those against our employer right now because they violated the contract. We already won one of them.
Yeah, so the National Labor Relations Board will, review the unfair labor practice and then, issue whether, the company has violated federal labor law. Additionally, I would say that the law in many ways could be improved. Unions have been supportive of the PRO Act that we kind of make enforcement mechanisms stronger. But another thing about having a union is like it's always your like collective voice, and so the more folks you have in a workplace, flexing for something, the more power you're gonna have. But a fair amount of union contracts are putting in provisions to protect against outsourcing, and so if that's violated, like in Liz's case, then you can go to the board about it.
Okay. Katie, at the beginning, you mentioned that a lot of what you do is help professionals understand what are the benefits of joining a union. What are the main benefits?
I would say the bigger, like the top benefit that a lot of people think about when they think of unions is higher pay. I think the most recent BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics data, said that union members on average make 20% more, and then within certain job titles that are union, the premium's even higher. But also for people of color and for women, union membership tends to narrow the wage gap, and a lot of that's because there's pay transparency. Unions have been negotiating for pay equity reviews to make salary adjustments if people are paid unfairly, based on a characteristic. And then union members tend to have better benefits, like better health insurance plans with like lower premiums, and also better retirement plans. Like a lot of union members still have pensions, which is kind of unheard of in the private sector a lot of times.
Yep, those are everything that my union won, and for someone in my position, they don't have it. They completely do not have a pension. They do not have health care, really. It's really ridiculous what my other coworkers don't have and what I have.
2023 has been a fantastic year for unions, with Starbucks and several others. The United Auto Workers just came to an agreement with the auto companies. The Screenwriters Guild and the Actors Guild is so basically there's been we're finally seeing them in the news, which we hadn't for a long time. Uh, how can we help keep pushing this, especially within our white collar world of insurance?
We actually just had a rally, not last weekend, but the one before, and it was with Starbucks. It was with the nurses, Starbucks, Sourdough, and MG&E, and then us. So we just came together collectively and shared what our struggles are with our employer and how we keep it moving forward, that unions are really the future and people need to get on board with it.
And I would add to that if folks in non-union workplaces, if they the more density, so the more that unions have in an industry and in the overall workforce, the more power working people have. And so I would say if folks are want a real legally protected voice in their workplace, that they should reach out about forming a union and learn about the process. As I mentioned before, on December 5th, we will be hosting a program that will go over the union organizing process as well as that survey data I talked about. But it's like organizing and standing together is really how we get more power, overall.
So I'm guessing the majority of the listeners, probably almost all, are in non-organized workplaces. How does the process start? So they give you a call, and what's the process look like to make this happen?
So yeah, if they reach out to DPE, we're a coalition of unions, so we connect folks to our affiliated unions like OPE-IU. And so we would schedule a call. I would talk to them about their workplace, find out how many coworkers they have, where they're they may work remote, but where's their office generally located, and make sure they're talk to them to make sure they're not a supervisor. So if you're, we go over that information, and then I would ask if they wanted to be connected to a union organizer at one of our affiliates, and so then I would make the connection there. And then generally an organizer, each is a little has a little bit different approach, but the general process is that they would work with you to what's called map your workplace. So see who all the non-supervisory employees are, and kind of make, I mean, the real simplest form is like an Excel spreadsheet. And then you would start going and talking to these coworkers about what changes they would like to see in their workplace. And those conversations would lead to questions about whether they would support a union. And then the most supportive employees generally tend to get recruited to what's called the organizing committee, which is about 10% of the workplace of union eligible employees, and those folks would kind of drive the union organizing campaign and keep track of talking to all their coworkers and assessing their union support. And once there's a supermajority of support, generally what are called union authorization cards are dropped. And these cards basically they're legally required to file for a election with the National Labor Relations Board. And you generally need 30%, but most unions want a supermajority to file. And so you would go back to your supporters and get them all to sign cards. Once you have enough cards, you would file with the National Labor Relations Board. And that's when your employer would be told by the National Labor Relations Board that their employees want to form a union. And then you would work with the union, the employer, and the board work together to find an election date. And then, eventually you would vote in an election. And if you have a majority of the votes, then you win your union. That's kind of the quick and dirty of
Okay.
it.
Are are you protected from legally from retaliation during the forming process? Like when you're starting those conversations with your.
Generally, you're not protected until you you file for a union election. So a lot of times you want to keep the organizing campaign pretty under wraps until that point. Because really the more public you become, the more protection you get, but you you know don't want to become public before you have a good support in your workplace. But yeah, the law will protect you from retaliation. Um, and if they you know fire you, or if they reprimand you in any way, that's an unfair labor practice, and it's something you would go to the board about.
Okay, so as part of the organizing training, so to speak, uh, you kind of show us best practices on how to get the word out without going public yet,
Yeah,
and without
so
getting in trouble early.
an organizer would work will like when I connect someone with an organizer, they're professional, they've done a lot of these campaigns, they will be able to work with you to kind of understand the best practices of keeping it under wraps until you're ready. Some things are like, don't use your work email address or your work phone or your work computer to connect with your coworkers. Connect with, if you want to like talk to them about the union, do it on your lunchtime or after work or before work or on breaks. And generally don't discuss this with managers. But an organizer would really tell you the best practices, and they're there to kind of walk the employees through the process.
Okay, okay, and the main website is insuranceprofessionalsunited.org.
Correct.
.org. Okay, well, thank you both for your time. It is truly exciting and heartening that unions are finally having a comeback after decades of kind of being on defense, and wonderful to see it happening in our world of insurance, where it is deeply necessary, at least in some parts of our industry. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.